All right. I've got it set to record and we'll be putting this on YouTube and we're broadcasting on Facebook Live at this time. And anyway, welcome you tonight. I hope you had a good Christmas. Today's topic is going to be vows. And, for New Year's, I think it's kind of appropriate and kind of a subject we don't talk about a lot. I mean, we talk about people making vows and commitments for the beginning of a new year, and everybody wants your new year to be better. And we've got prophets prophesying and et cetera, and about what we're going to be doing in the new year. And so, anyway, I want to discuss that a little bit. I hope there's nobody logged in quite yet, but hopefully, in time, people will be getting on here and we'll have some conversation about some of these things instead of just myself talking. But if you're watching this recorded or on Facebook Live, make your comments if you would like. And uh, anyway, we're going to go from there. Well, I'm going to share my screen to my PowerPoint uh, presentation that I have to go with this. And anyway, and I will continue to move on here. All right. Well, you can see that well. And anyway, today's subject is vows. And literally, a vow is like a contract, so to speak. And we want to talk about what that means to you, me, to God, to the others around us. And so, and anyway, I'm going to first go to what does Webster's dictionary say? If you're studying things in the Bible, the dictionary is not a bad place to go to look up a word. Obviously we're talking about looking up things in the Greek and the Hebrew and such. Um, but anyway, it's good to just look and see what a good dictionary definition is. There's so many different translations of the Bible and opinions and things about what this means, or people are applying their life experiences to it. But anyway, this is from the Webster Dictionary web page in there, and it says as a noun, it's a solemn promise or assertion, or as a verb, it's somebody making a promise solemnly, uh, consecrating themselves, vowing to do something. And so that's kind of a good place to start, but it's a good thing to go to what the Bible actually says. And we want to be biblically based in what we do. A Webster's dictionary or a secular source is something to help us to understand maybe a little better or shed a little different light on it. Uh, but I just love the Bible is pretty doggone complete in itself. All right, so what does the Bible say? So I'm going to go ahead and read this passage, Matthew 5:33. And then it says, and again, you have heard it have been said by them of old time that thou shalt not forswear thyself, but thou shalt perform unto the Lord thine oaths. But I say unto you, swear not at all, neither by heaven, for it is God's throne, nor by earth, for it is his footstool, neither by Jerusalem, for it is the city of the great king. Neither shalt thou swear by thy head, because thou cannot make one hair white or black, but let your communication be yea, yea, nay, nay. And whatsoever is more than this cometh evil. So as Jesus speaks so much in the New Testament, he kind of tells you, like, hey, what we were doing under the law, we're moving into grace. Under the law, there was 10 commandments. And it's not that we throw the 10 commandments out, but he says, if you love God with all your heart, your mind, and your soul, and you love your neighbor as yourself, you fulfill the law. So likewise here, he's saying, and in the Old Testament, times. Under the law, you made a vow, you made a commitment, and when you did this, you better stick to it. But he's saying in the New Testament, hey, don't get too carried away. Just let your yes be yes and your nay be nay. And anything more than that comes evil. So, the thing that we hear often, at this time of the year, uh, is people, making their vows for the new year to lose weight. I'm not going to maybe some vice that I have. I'm not going to participate in that as much. I'm going to uh, clean up my act here or there. I'm going to do more charity. I'm going to give more to church. I'm going to do this, do that. And as a pastor at the Father's house, sometimes when people would come and visit, sometimes I would hear commitments on the very first time somebody attended the church. And I would hear things like, man, I love this church. I'm going to be here every service. This is my church now. And usually, when I heard that on the first service, somebody vowed to me of their allegiance to the Father's house. Usually, by 2 to 3 weeks, you never seen them again. Whereas somebody else came in and took their time, surveyed where they were at, why they were there. Those people stuck with it. And so, hasty vows are not good. Even thought out vows sometimes are not good. All right, well, I want to go to where the Bible first mentions vows. And this would be kind of under the law, under the book of Numbers. And in Numbers 30, chapter 30, verse 2, it says, if a man vow a vow unto the Lord, or swear an oath to bind his soul with a bond, he shall not break his word. He shall do according to all that proceedeth out of his mouth. Now, the entire chapter 30 of Numbers talks about vows, vowing to God, vowing to another person, about a married woman or a widow or a not married woman making a vow, and how those things were affected and how vows could be disallowed and such. But this is what Jesus was talking about, that he was talking about the Old Testament, that you better follow through with your vows. I'm going to move forward here and just say historically, vows were valued. If somebody gave their word, it was expected to be kept. And in today's world, a person's word's almost worth nothing. You need multiple witnesses and the context of when something was said, a written contract. And we get all entangled because we don't trust anybody and nobody trusts us as well. And so the world has changed. And, maybe even the casual things we do on the first of the year or the end of the year and make a vow for the new year uh, could contribute to this, that we don't take vows or our word very seriously. I want to go to a story about historically and biblically how vows and a person's word were extremely important. Hear a whole lot about this story, but what's one thing so awesome about the Word of God? It's a timeless book, and we'll see that in a timeline that I'm going to share on a few more slides here. But Joshua and the Gibeonites. So Joshua chapter 9 finds the children of Israel have crossed the Jordan River. They've come in and they've consecrated themselves, and they have moved in. They have the spies have gone in and spied out Jericho, and they have circled the walls of Jericho. The walls have fallen down. They've taken the spoil, and this other destruction of Jericho and the spoiling of it. The word has gone out throughout the land of Canaan. And so that's where we find ourselves in Joshua 9:3. So as I'm going to go ahead and read this passage, and when the inhabitants of Gibeon heard that Joshua had done unto Jericho and to Ai, they did work wily and went and made as if they were ambassadors and took old sacks upon their asses and bottles of wine bottles old and rent and bound up, and old shoes and clouded their feet with old garments upon them, and all the bread of their provision was dry and moldy. And they went to Joshua unto the camp at Gilgal. They said unto them, when the men of Israel, we came from a far country now, therefore we make a league with us. So I'm going to skip down to verse 14. And it says they took their victuals and they asked them not at the council of the Lord. So they didn't make any decision here. They didn't speak with the Lord. They just made a decision. Hey, okay, we'll make peace with you, and they didn't ask God about it, and they just went on their way. And so I'm going to go to the next slide here. And this is what God had uh, told the children of Israel, Exodus 23:31. And I'm just going to go ahead and skip to verse 32 there. It says, thou shalt make no covenant with them, nor with their gods. So he said, when you go into the land, you're not supposed to make any deals with these people. They were supposed to be utterly destroyed. They were uh, literally to be purged out of the land because they represented evil. There's some greater depths of that. And he says in the bottom there, verse 33, that thou shalt not dwell in thy land, lest they make thee sin against me, and if thou serve their gods, it will surely be a snare unto them or unto thee. So he says, if you make a deal with these people of the land, it's going to cause you some problems. And so they did it. And if you read on in the story of Joshua there, which I'd encourage you to do, you'll find out that they made a deal with them, and uh, it turns out they're inhabitants of the land. The people are upset. They're actually ready to stone Joshua, but Joshua says we have to keep the word that we did. Now, here's the problem with this deal was not supposed to happen, but yet Joshua did it. The elders with him, they made this deal. And even though it was basically, you might say, a deal with the devil, they had to keep it. They had to honor it. Well, you might think, well, that doesn't make any sense, or God wouldn't hold them to it. But that's not true. So I'm going to give you a little bit of a timeline. This slide that I have up on the screen right now, I don't know if I agree with it. There's a lot of things with the genealogies where you can figure out somewhat of when things actually happened and time wise. But at the beginning of it, if you're looking at the screen to the left hand side, you see 1350 BC is what it's saying. And then you look at the right side of the timeline, you see 950 BC. And so approximately 400 years you have here. So on the other side of the 1350 is where Joshua made this deal with the Gibeonites. And if you read the story, it says that they were made hewers of wood and carriers of water. So they were servants to the Israelites as what they did. That was the compromise that you've done wrong by making this deal. You've uh, lied to us, distorted the truth here, and anyway, but that's how we're going to live with them. So about 400 years have passed till the time of David. So now the slide that I have on the screen now, Joshua and the Gibeonites. I have the title there, but 2 Samuel 21:1. Joshua is long gone. He was been dead for nearly 400 years. So the verse 1 says there was a famine in the days of David, 3 years, year after year, and David inquired of the Lord. And the Lord said unto him, It is for Saul and for his bloody house, because he slew the Gibeonites. And the king called the Gibeonites and said unto them, Now the Gibeonites were not the children of Israel, but the remnant of the Amorites. So the Bible's got a footnote here basically telling us the Gibeonites were not Israelites. They were leftovers from the people of the land of the Amorites. And it tells us Israel had sworn to them, and Saul sought to slay them in his zeal to the children of the Israel and Judah. So Saul, it's not really told us in any other part of well, during the life of Saul. This is where we find out about it after Saul has been killed, died in battle. That Saul went to kill the Gibeonites and had warred against them. And because of that, David was in the third year of a famine. So now think about this. Joshua made a vow that he should not have made. Joshua and the people of Israel made a vow that they should not have made 400 years earlier. King Saul breaks that vow, and about, I don't know how many years between the time of Saul being king to being David being king. But David was king in Hebron 7 years. And so during this time, he's king in Jerusalem. So nearly 10 years after Saul is gone, this famine takes place. And it's from a vow that God was still honoring 400 years later. And so if you would continue on in the story, you'd find out that uh, to break the curse of this famine, seven descendants of Saul were brought forward, and they were hanged, and that made the penance for what King Saul had done, which was not even alive at the time. That's how important a vow was in the eyes of God and for the children of Israel. All right, here's one other story I want to share from the Old Testament. Judges 11:30. And Jephthah was somebody raised up as one of the judges of Israel. And Jephthah vowed a vow unto the Lord, and it said, If thou shalt without fail deliver the children of Ammon into my hands, then it shall be that whatsoever cometh forth in the doors of my house to meet me, when I return in peace from the children of Ammon, surely shall be the Lord's, and I will offer it up as a burnt offering. So this Jephthah guy, um, he decides, man, I'm just going to show my devotion to the Lord. Lord, you help me out. You do this for me, Lord, and I'm going to do that for you. Does anybody ever make a statement like that themselves? Lord, if you heal the cancer over here, I'll do this. I think that's what we describe sometimes as foxhole salvation, that people in war make vows and commitments to the Lord while the bullets are flying overhead. And there could be a really good vow, but there also might be a little bit of craziness. Well, he just makes this blanket statement. And again, Jephthah didn't make a vow that the Lord said he had to do. He did this all on his own. All right, let's move on here to a little lower down. Judges 11:34. And Jephthah came to Mizpah into his house. This is after the battle is over and he has won. The Lord blessed him. And his daughter came out to meet him with timbrels and dances, and she was his only child. Besides her, he had neither son nor daughter. And it came to pass when he saw her that he rent his clothes, and he says, Alas, my daughter, thou hast brought me very low, and thou art one of them that trouble me. For I have opened my mouth unto the Lord, and I cannot go back. He realizes that he made a stupid decision. Anything that comes through the tent, he wasn't thinking it might be my daughter, it might be my wife, it might be my best friend. He didn't think about those things. He just threw this blanket statement out there. And according to the scriptures, it says she goes out and bemoans her virginity with her friends for, I forget what it is, 60 days or something like that. And then it implies that she really was sacrificed unto the Lord, which again is against God's plan, against God's values. But it was a vow that was made, and was Jephthah followed it out, and apparently God honored it in some way. So that's how important two situations where vows were made that were not good, and actually against God's ways and His commandments, but yet they were honored. So I want to move into today's day and time. And on the screen there, I have one of the greatest failures about vows is what we do in the church world today. Now, I haven't seen one of these lately, but in my adult life as a born again Bible believing Christian, I don't know how many churches and church services I've been into where you've been handed a pledge card and you basically are vowing how much I'm going to give to a building program, maybe to support missions, to do this, to do that. And how many of us have done this and maybe within a month or two forgot all about it or didn't have the finances to do it? But we filled that out. We signed our name to it and we turned it in and we made a commitment. And we literally, like flippantly, make these commitments in the church world today. And church leadership is asking you to do this. And part of the problem is because in the church world today, we don't preach about tithes and offerings and about the proper use of finances in the church. And church leadership are resorted to using tactics like this in order to break through and get the resources they need. Uh, Televangelists, TV preachers are some of the biggest ones for doing these kinds of things. So anyway, that's one of the things that happens today. Again, we go back to what the Bible says. But let your communication be yea and yea, nay and nay, for whatsoever is more than these cometh evil. And for instance, the proper way to handle that pledge card is I'm going to do the best I can to support this and not entering into a vow that you don't know what tomorrow's bringing. And what what could happen, what twists and turns in life are on the horizon, and just not put yourself in those positions. All right, I got a controversial one here next. What about marriage vows? You know, um, as being a pastor for several years and doing a few marriages here and there, that was one of the things that people pick out the vows that they want to make, and uh, liberation, women's liberation and such has changed things, that I about obeying and this and that. So I just want to read this quote from C.S. Lewis, and it says, "If people do not believe in a permanent marriage, it is perhaps better they should live together than unmarried, together unmarried, than that they should make vows that they do not mean to keep. It is true that by living together without marriage, they will be guilty in the eyes of God of fornication. But one fault is not mending by adding another. Unchastity is not improved by adding perjury." And C.S. Lewis has a way with words, but in our culture, uh, we really like not everybody. I think a lot of people get married and don't even think anything about those vows. And I know I just recently saw something where somebody said, I want to read those vows. Or there was a couple that was just married this past weekend. And the groom said, I want to really look at those vows and I want to take them seriously. And I don't know that that happens that often in our world today. But anyway, the point of this is uh, making our word worth something today. And marriage is one of those places where it doesn't happen very much. So back to the dictionary definition. And we saw vow earlier, and a vow is a solemn promise or promising solemnly. And I want to compare that to a covenant. Now, one of the things about a covenant is it's usually an agreement between two or more parties. It says, as this definition says, and 2A there. And I'm going to go ahead and go to the next slide. Uh, a covenant, a formal binding agreement or a pact between two parties. Making a pact with God, Israel, a husband and a wife. The nature of it, it's two-sided, it's a mutual promise, shared benefits or consequences. Um, and key features there, a lasting relationship, shared identity, breaking it has significant repercussions for both parties. Okay, comparing that to a vow is like standing alone and proclaiming something, making a pledge to God, to another person. And most of the time it's going to be one-sided. And um, the consequences often are one-sided. That you didn't keep your word, you didn't do those things. So to be thinking about those things um, on those lines, the difference between a vow and a covenant. Um, so anyway, either way, both things are very important and neither should be entered into lightly. All right. So what does the Bible say? I'm going to go back. This is a different version. Matthew is the one that documented Jesus' words about let your yea be yea and your nay be nay. But James wrote this as well, James 5:12. But above all things, my brethren, swear not, neither by heaven, neither by earth, neither by any other oath, but let your yea be yea and your nay be nay, lest you fall into condemnation. Well, as I got there in red at the bottom, have you already fallen into condemnation? And the truth is, most of us have in some way or another. We've maybe hastily made a vow, uh, maybe uh, seriously thought about something and really put a lot into it, and maybe we just were a failure completely. So I want to share something from the Old Testament, the same chapter 30 of Numbers, where we get a lot of information about vows under the law. But this is a picture of what Jesus can do for us now. So, Numbers 36, it says, if she had at all an husband when she vowed or uttered aught out of her lips, wherewith she bound her soul, and her husband heard it, and he held his peace, and in that day that he heard it, then her vow shall stand, and her bonds wherewith she bound her soul shall stand. So there's a foundation at the beginning of this chapter about making a vow, and that keeping your vows, they need to you need to be serious about it. But the biblical order is the man is the leader of the household, and and this is reiterated over and over in the Word of God. In our culture, that's diminished quite a bit. But it says if a husband heard his wife make a vow, basically she entered into a contract without him. If he stands back and says nothing, then that contract shall stand. And whatever it is, maybe she made, if you're trying to think in biblical times, made a vow that she would take care of other person's child or something. And today, you would think about she went out and got her own credit card, and he finds out about it, and he just says nothing, then that's her credit. To put it in there, so it's kind of simplistic in a way. But it says, booming verse 8, but if her husband disallow it on the day that he heard it, and then he shall make her vow which she vowed, which she uttered with her lips, wherewith she bound, of none effect, and the Lord shall forgive her. So the husband had the power to nullify his wife's vow. And so bringing this into New Testament times, we're the bride of Christ. And God doesn't take away our free will. He lets us make these vows that we do. He lets us fill out the pledge cards that we probably shouldn't be filling out. He lets us do all kinds of things and say things and make commitments that we may think or that we can keep. But when we give them to him and we put him in our life, he has the power to break those things off. Now, there's a lot of deeper things. I'm going to go to my last slide here. Let your yea be yea and your nay be nay, lest you fall into condemnation. And we really have to be careful about what we say and how we do things. And um, but if we've made vows that we should not have made, uh, Jesus is our way to break those things and to uh, stop the curse that's coming on us from breaking our vow. And uh, so I just want you to think about that. Think about our words. If you're a person that uh, was wanting to make vows for this year, think about it. Be serious about it. I encourage you to try to make a commitment uh, for doing better this year and whatever you're doing under your Lord for your home, for your life, for your family, for your friends. But don't open your mouth and do like Joshua did. Seek the Lord, make him part of your commitment, and the Lord's blessing will be on that, and we won't have anything that we need to back out of someday down the road. All right, I'm going to end the session with that. And thank you for joining. If you're listening on YouTube or Facebook, appreciate it. Try to join us live, and hopefully we'll get some live people on here down the road and have some interaction and conversation about these things. And hopefully not too controversial, but we'll have a good time. Take care.